Hey everybody, quick update here as we head into the earliest alerts. We'll start with the river stages. Obviously some really good news here. They continue to drop. The lower gauge is now out of moderate stage, or lower gauge is out of moderate stage in flooding. So many numbers as of late. 64.7 as of last check, still falling. Will not likely drop below flood stage at 55 feet until I would say end of the weekend, early next week. All right. As far as the upper gauge goes, still in moderate flood stage level, but that will be changing very soon. In fact, as early as perhaps this evening, we may see that happen. Now, the rain is considered into this factor, and it will slow that drop down. That's why it's a dramatic drop. It's a slow easing down, but at least it will continue to recede. Taking a look at the Salt River, for those that have been curious about that, it continues to look pretty good as well. With its level continuing to fall down below flood stage. In fact, 29.5 feet as of last check continues that drop as well, although it may react to some moderate rainfall times and may try to come back up slightly, but not to the level it was. Rolling Fork, same story, should level out with the additional rainfall moving into the area. So it's a quick check. Of course, we'll keep you updated if anything changes on these river levels. Now, so far today, we had the two waves move in. The first one went south, the second one's taken a while to really arrive into southern areas of Indiana. A lot of dry air to overcome, but that's changing. It means I'll look at the dew point, continue to climb. So we're seeing the light rain drizzle, struggle, but this is all reaching the ground here in southern Kentucky, around Litchfield, all the way down to about Land Between the Lakes, and this is the batch of rain moving our way for the late morning, midday period for us here into Louisville. And notice there's a gap here, so we will see a break in the action once we get past this midday blob coming through the area. Certainly the heaviest over Tennessee and southern Kentucky. That's where the flood watch is for those of you south of the parkways, to account for this batch, and then also what's going to be developing tonight and tomorrow out of this next wave coming our way. So the gap that we have will take us into the afternoon and early evening, and then the next round of rain will take place. Now here's one of our in-house models, just to kind of give you an idea of how this will play out. Now it has the rainfall, again the northern part of that, right across the Louisville area, very close to now. It's a little aggressive, about maybe an hour or two, but you get the general idea that the heaviest is south of us. As we do this afternoon, the gap does form. That will allow us to get to about 60 to 63, I think, here into Louisville. Then tonight, we have the first wave, which actually is going to be a low pressure and a warm front attached to it. It's going to scoot right across the Tennessee Valley. And that will push our numbers up. I think we'll fall very little tonight. Then we'll see a surge of some temperatures that will be rising up closer to 60, and then we'll get some heavy rain at times to develop in central Kentucky. And again, in that flood watch area, South Parkway is what we need to watch for to see if we see totals that could exceed 1.5 inches or even 2 inches out of that kind of a surge. Here in Louisville, we could have some downpours around. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where, but you may get a middle of the night wake-up call with some lightning and thunder. We're not expecting anything severe, by the way, out of this overnight stuff, but some heavy rain is possible. Then we get into Thursday, which is our alert day, and it's a multifaceted issue here. We start the morning off with some downpours around the area, so make sure to tune in to Sunrise tomorrow and let you know what's trending there. And then we head toward 11 a.m. It's a good time period to pick out. It may not be exactly 11, but you get an idea. The first low pressure and warm front is out of here. Now we have the second one with a strong cold front rolling in across the Wabash. There is still an indication we're going to see in between the two a chance to break the clouds up enough. Now a lot of the moisture is being stolen out of the first wave across eastern Kentucky, so that's going to steal a lot of the energy out of this when it comes to moisture. But there looks to still be enough around that with the dynamics of that front and low being so close to us, the one approaching, that there could be some gusty thunderstorms that could react to that heating. Now if we stay overcast completely, just a band of showers. That's all we're talking about. But if we can get some sun rays to poke through there for even an hour or two, we'll climb into the mid-60s, and here we go with the band of thunderstorms that look to be isolated, strong, and one or two could be severe. And when I say severe, I'm saying maybe a wind gust could get over 50 miles per hour, over 55, I should say, that'll approach that 60 potential, and perhaps even some hail. And an isolated tornado threat is there, but it's not off the charts. But just keep in mind, there could be a few gusty thunderstorms around lunch tomorrow. Now, also a reminder, they're testing the tornado drill for the statewide drill at about 10 o'clock or so, I think, tomorrow morning for the Kentucky side of the Ohio. So, kind of bad timing. Hopefully it doesn't confuse anybody when we hear the siren cough at 10 a.m. But just know that we'll monitor the storm potential. I want to stress it's not a high potential on the severe part, but I can't just take it off the table completely based on still what I'm looking at. I think that chance is still there, and it's worth watching. here's the thing. It's a narrow window for that to even happen. 11 a.m. to say 1 o'clock, because after that, the colder air rushes in, and then strong winds, gusting over 30 to even 40 miles per hour in some cases. Couldn't even get a wind advisory out of this, but the temperatures go from the mid-60s to mid-40s as we get into the evening commute. Wind chills in the upper 30s. It's going to be a very changeable day, and for that reason, an alert day has been declared, because it will likely impact your day. Those changes from morning to afternoon that I just talked about. It's quite the change we'll have during the daylight period. All right, so that's the setup for your early day on Thursday. As far as total rainfall goes out of this, the rainfall today for the Wednesday wave, again, highest in Kentucky versus Indiana, but when you add in all together, it still looks like our southern counties are the reason why we had that flood watch out. We need to monitor. Now, could we see amounts close to an inch or even higher here locally? It's possible. Keep in mind, those thunderstorms, especially on Thursday midday, they can put down a good, quarter inch of rain, if not a little more, but thunderstorms can skew a rainfall graphic like that. So just know the potential is there for 1 inch in most locations. That is a grand total. Some spots could go higher than that. You don't want it all at once, and I don't see it happening all at once. They're going to be spread out under these different waves to be passing through, and as long as that's the case, other than minor flash flooding, the area rivers will likely not react much to that other than slow their drop just a bit. And that's how it looks now. Now, looking at the parameters here for the timing, for those of you trying to make plans. Tomorrow morning looks busy on the radar. Just heads up there. Our severe potential again, late morning, midday, and there's that drop from 60s down into the 40s. So what happens after that? Well, it gets really interesting, actually, because our system that passes through on the alert day will then be forced to dive more southeast, really, than up. And it's a strong NAL, a negative NAL taking place in the Atlantic, and still a somewhat neutral PNA that it's allowing for that low to dive at a very unique angle. But here's what's wild about this. This is the rain-snow line aloft, by the way, that blue line, in case you're wondering. That low gets into the Atlantic, and now all of a sudden it reaches a blocking pattern. It has really nowhere to go in the Atlantic. But here comes another system. This will be Monday. So as this system arrives, it senses that this one's here in the Atlantic and basically will not let it go anymore to the east. So then the low is going to say goodbye to the cold front. So it basically just approaches the Great Lakes. It throws a cold front at us, and then it just retreats back into Canada. And that's typical what you see in a blocking pattern. But what happens then is you get the low that is stuck in this area, got one offshore that kind of glides a little more to the east, and then the next couple of waves, clippers if you will, have no choice but to dive around it to the south. And that is where we may be dealing with some wintry weather, maybe in the middle portion of next week. It's possible, rain or snow, and even another one right on its heels, right behind that. Now, I will say other models, with that little wave that comes in Monday that throws the cold front at us, other models take that core and move it a little more north of Nova Scotia, which would keep that clipper train, if you will, a little more angled like this to the Great Lakes and not bother us. So how this all plays out with this blocking pattern developing is still up in the air. That's what we can't give specifics at the time, but at least you have an idea of what we're looking at and what we are watching for as we head into March. But we have, of course, a busy 36 hours ahead of us alone that we need to take care of. But just know that we're not ignoring this for you snow lovers out there. But no need to panic yet. No snowstorm in the forecast. But it is an interesting setup that does need to be watched. So stay tuned.